Welcome to the Real Estate Syndication Show. Whether you are a seasoned investor or building a new real estate business, this is the show for you. Whitney Sewell talks to top experts in the business. Our goal is to help you master real estate syndication. And now your host, Whitney Sewell.
This is your daily real estate syndication show. I'm your host, Whitney Sewell. Today, our guests are Julian Sage and Jon Bell. Thanks for being on the show, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us, Whitney.
In 2019, Jon and Julian began teaching others how to self-manage properties through their blog, Short-Term Sage, which has grown a community of thousands of hosts and have the #1 podcast on iTunes for Airbnb. Jon and Julian currently help others in multifamily space through leasing and managing short-term rentals through their management company. Guys, welcome to the show. I'm looking forward to this conversation. I know there's a lot of talk around Airbnb right now, and you know, is it something we should invest in? Is it not? What's going on there? You know, and hopefully you all can shed some light, and I'm sure you can. But I just think, you know, whether we're managing a single family house, a duplex, or whether it's a 200 unit complex, short term rental is something that we should have in our toolbox. You know, or something that's available to us, and at least have some understanding, or at least someone like you that's potentially a phone call away, where we can, you know, move into some other avenues if we need to rent some units, or maybe even increase some income for a while, depending on if it's in a place where that would work. But welcome to the show. You know, let's dive in. Tell us a little more about, you know, your business, your focus right now, and let's tell the listeners why they should be thinking about this asset class as well.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks for having us, Whitney. Just a little background. You know, I got into the short-term rental space because, you know, I was just looking to, you know, basically save some money. I'm a military guy, and I moved to the DC area because I was, I got stationed here. And one of the big things, Whitney, that we'd really like to be able to help your audience is to realize that short-term rentals is like an asset class that you said, and a tool in their toolbox that they can definitely utilize. A lot of people that come into the space that we help to educate, you know, they know nothing about short-term rentals. I know Airbnb just recently had their IPO and they did really well. And, you know, people might be looking at Airbnb and short-term rentals as something that they can incorporate. So, you know, definitely want to be able to talk about some of the different options that multifamily investors would have in the space if they are interested in, as quote unquote, an Airbnb.
No, it's awesome, and I just think it is like we both said. I mean, it's just a great option to have in our toolbox, and we need to. Maybe I'm not an expert in Airbnb, but I need to know that there's at least an option. If I need to, seek somebody out like yourself that is an expert to maybe partner with or bring in on our team, or at least provide some guidance or something if it's something that we need to take advantage of as well. Why short-term rentals, and what kind of got you into that? I know maybe you have a military background. What is that something that kind of pushed you into short-term rentals?
Yeah, for myself, you know, I fell into short-term rentals just because, you know, as a military guy moving to the DC area, you know, it's expensive to live here. And short-term rentals really allowed me to be able to start actually living in my house for free. I purchased a primary residence, and I was just trying to look to save some money. And when I listed my basement unit online, I realized that I was actually quickly able to cover my mortgage, which kind of inspired me to start this blog, Short-Term Sage, to be able to teach other people that, you know, short-term rentals is a way that, you know, I don't have, as a military guy, like I wasn't making a lot of money. So having the option to make, you know, over $2,000 a month off of a basement unit is kind of crazy when people are investing into properties, spending, you know, tens of thousands of dollars to maybe make, you know, $200-$300 a month with a lot of headache. You know, as a short-term rental, there is a lot of simplicity. There is a lot more ease. There are different things because it is a hospitality business. But when we started teaching other people in the space, we quickly realized that, you know, this isn't just list your basement unit online and make money business. This is actually something that you can build a whole business around, or you can incorporate that into your other types of asset classes, like in the multifamily space is what we started realizing as we scaled our company.
Nice. And Jon, and where are you located, and why is Airbnb your focus?
I'm in the DC area, Maryland proper. And, I thought of Airbnb and short term rentals as more of a way to get some side cash. I was an avid flipper. I had a franchise called Homevestors where I was buying homes and flipping homes. And I was kind of, I would say, mediocre in doing that. I was able to bring in some money, but then at the end of each flip, I was still kind of like, that's a lot of work just to get maybe, of course, we're talking probably 60,000 in profit, but I just felt like I could be doing something different or better. And I stumbled across Airbnbs just by going and staying at one. And once I really did the math, I was thinking, whoa, this is something that is way better than just going out and flipping homes. And I started, I had a full-time job at the time, and I just wanted an extra like $4,000 a month. And I was able to achieve that very quickly. And before I met Julian, I was already like scaling up to about 24 apartments. And I had the 24 and I was still working my day job. It just was so easy to kind of get things going. And I took that franchise mindset, that, systems and standards kind of thing, where I built these systems, and it made management of these apartments really easy. And it didn't stress me to have them. And I was, because I was a flipper, I knew other flippers, right? So my investor friends that kind of came out, and they had properties they were going to flip, or they bought a bigger building and they didn't know what they were going to do. I became an avenue for them to kind of flip to, or basically fill an apartment that they had vacant. And then I would add extra income for them. So it was like a win-win for the both of us, until they started, literally throwing apartments at us just because, hey, I'm confident that John at the time could just go out and just fill these apartments. So I'm just going to go buy a bigger building. I'm going to give 20 apartments to John, and he's going to go and do it that way. So very interesting, very fun. Great business to couple in, like you guys said.
Nice. Well, it's just interesting. Just hear how people, chose the asset class that they're working in and committing their time to. But I feel like Airbnb is something that, like I said, we should know about. Well, can you just give us a few things? I'd like to talk also about how you all are using a fund, to invest in short-term rentals. But before we do that, help the syndicator that's listening right now to kind of open their mind a little bit to, hey, maybe we have a couple units that we could turn into a short-term rental. What are some things they should be thinking about, and why maybe they should strongly consider that?
Yeah, well, as a syndicator, there are a couple options that you definitely want to consider. If you do have a property, a lot of people say, it's location, which is important. But the thing about short-term rentals that we see and that we teach others is that short-term rentals don't always have to be in these like major like cities, or they don't have to be specifically in vacation destinations. A lot of people travel to different areas. You might have a multifamily building in maybe more of a rural area that's outside of where maybe a lot of hotels are. That might actually be the perfect area for a short-term rental, because people traveling to that space, maybe they are looking for a corporate stay. Maybe they are a traveling nurse, blue collar worker, someone that's going into maybe an area that your property is located in that you can accommodate for. There might be a large business there. Could be next to universities, schools. A lot of syndicators are looking for these prime locations where there is going to be increased jobs, where they maybe are near a university, or they're by something that is going to draw people in. Those same reasons why people are going to be drawn in to live are also going to be very similar to the same reasons people are going to be traveling there to stay. So if you are looking to incorporate short-term rentals into your business, there are a different couple options that they might have to choose from.
Yeah, and I think too, I mean, we have to think through like supplying the furniture and just having it outfitted, right? If we're going to have one or two units like that, but it could be a potential increase in income for a few units at least, right? And how would we think about like how many units we should consider, or have you seen other multifamily operators say, okay, let's start with one and then let's see what happens, or do they start with a couple? What does that transition look like to kind of get our feet wet a little bit?
That actually just starts out just by checking almost the person's temperature. Some people do want to start out with one unit. Some people are already somewhat hip to the space. So they want to start out with more. Typically, what we end up seeing is people doing at least 10% of the apartments that they want to do. Let's just say within the first year, whether that rollout means they're going to start out with, hey, just two, or they're going to do more. But we see that they like that, or some cases we actually take up entire floors, just because some people don't want to mix short-term guests with long-term guests, and we understand that concept, of course. And the advantage of having like somebody like ourselves come in is we can take the floors that are necessarily not that popular, maybe like all ground floor apartments, because our guests don't necessarily care that, hey, I'm not living here on the ground floor, but yet I'm just coming to stay. This is a comfortable space. It's styled very nicely. And I'm just here for a week. So that's one advantage that we can definitely offer there. But if we're talking about numbers, right? I mean, let's just say you can make $300 per door just on a regular apartment. What we're able to bring in typically is about double that when we're taking it to a short-term market. So we're adding almost double the profit per door to the investor. And that's something that this industry is really the only thing that can do that.
Is there a way to know for sure that this is going to be a good investment for us? And I was just thinking about like, how do I say, okay, this property, if we have 500 units in one market, how would I best determine which property I should start with? Maybe, maybe one or two to start with.
There are some really useful tools out there that we use in our industry. One of those tools being AirDNA. AirDNA, it's just a market analyzer tool. Another tool that we like to use is Price Labs, which is a pricing tool, and they have similar data, a little bit different. And then going online and looking at sites like Airbnb and seeing what other listings are in the area and what some of the revenue and that they're bringing in. Not only the revenue though, but the quality of the properties. These are things that we look at. Or you could work with, guys like us. We love to look at properties and analyze them and, come up with numbers and see if it'd be a good fit. And that's kind of one of the services that we provide to multifamily owners.
Nice. Well, let's talk a little bit about how you all aren't just going and buying, a property to turn into Airbnb. You're also operating a fund that's buying, Airbnb properties. Can you just speak to that fund a little bit? Operating a fund while, to buy Airbnb properties, as opposed to a lot of the listeners are going to be familiar with obviously syndicating deals, which are funds, in themselves. But you all have a different type of fund. And can you just walk us through that a little bit?
Yeah, we came up with a different concept, right? We worked with a bunch of people, a bunch of investors, and what we found is that having a certain amount of units in one space is great, but there's some seasonality that person is exposed to. So how do we kind of hedge off some of that seasonality, which kind of gave us the idea of, hey, let's start a fund where we can go out, we can pick up apartments in different markets to basically flatline the seasonality across the board, offering great returns just throughout the year. And we also know that, hey, picking up a short-term rental is way cheaper than going out and buying a property, because we use a method called rental arbitrage, which is basically we go and rent an apartment and we re-rent it back out to Airbnb guest or short-term guest. And that way we're only in for the furniture, the security deposit. So we're talking, let's just say 10,000 per apartment. So allowing somebody to come in, dump some money into the fund, we're actually paying out 24.5% IRR on that fund. So really great returns. And we're doing that over a 5-year span. And you almost can double your money by investing into the fund.
Interesting. And tell me what parts of the country are you all seeing as best for Airbnb right now? Maybe you can speak to just the pandemic and things that's happened as well recently and how that's affected this market.
Yeah, a lot of people are looking at short-term rentals as something that has been seriously impacted, and that's really going to be very market and location dependent. So let's just say for us, we've got properties located in Miami, DC, New Orleans, Pensacola, and different areas. Each market has a slightly different effect. we see just outside of the metro areas are actually doing surprisingly well because people are looking to get away from the cities and are looking to get into more rural, more outside of these metro areas. But even in these metro areas, again, people are still traveling for work. People are still, doing business. So the areas that we might see the greatest impact might be, completely isolated destinations, maybe like Tulum, or a lot of maybe like ski resorts, things like outside of that. But really, again, it's going to be market and location dependent because each county is going to have different regulations on how they, will adjust the travel. But short-term rentals, it really is a market-specific type of effect.
So let's say, okay, as a multifamily operator, we have a couple units we're now turning into Airbnb. What are some ways just that we can maximize the revenue? I mean, some things that I wouldn't know about unless I'm speaking to somebody like yourself, that we haven't talked about already.
I would say it's probably best to go out and just contact somebody like us or us, because we're going to be able to analyze the property and tell you at least what we expect to bring in. And we have a template in which that we know we can put in as far as aesthetics and looks and feels that satisfy our guest. A lot of people sometimes when they think of Airbnb, it's like, oh, I'm going to IKEA, I'm going to pick up this furniture, I'm just going to throw this thing together, but I want to charge $300 a night. And that technically is an epic fail. If you go out and do something like that, you're really not going to maximize what you're going to bring in. Your reviews won't look that great. So if you want something that's very turnkey, you want to talk to a professional that's done it over and over again. And collectively at the moment, we have over 50 apartments that we do this for. So, and like I said, multiple markets. So it's very easy for someone like ourselves to come in and direct and then go ahead and just provide returns for you.
What about the, just like price range or class of property that we're going to get the best return on investment? I know the location is going to mean so much and where, all those things, but like, if we're thinking about a class A building or nice duplex on the beach somewhere versus, a smaller house, older house in town somewhere, how do we think through some of those things and just how nice of a property it should be?
Yeah, I think, and that comes down to the type of guest that you are going to be hosting. So if you're going to be, if you have a building right by the beach, real class A property, what you're going to be charging is going to be obviously a lot more for that property because you're going to be trying to attract, a guest that may be just traveling for an experience. They are looking for something that's a little bit more high end. So if you're going to be putting money into that property, they're going to have a certain level, a certain expectation, more like, let's say like a Marriott, a real high-end Marriott type of stay, as opposed to maybe let's say this is it's a rehab property, maybe it's a B plus B property in more of a rural area, then you don't have to go super high end in the property. You might be catering this towards more like a family traveler. So you might be thinking more in mind of like the hotel, maybe more like a Holiday Inn, something a little bit above that maybe. Because again, a lot of people, when they think of Airbnb, they think of maybe like your mom and dad, a basement unit in your primary residence. But the real shift is that, you have a building that, can be very similar to like how a hotel. So we're looking at short-term rentals in more of like the franchise model. If I'm going to be traveling to the area and I see a beautiful building that looks comparative to a hotel, but it's got a full kitchen, it's got, a full bathroom, more walking space, I'm going to be maybe more inclined to travel and go to that area with my family or even just personally because hotels are going to be very limited in space and what they provide to me personally as a traveler.
How do you prepare for a downturn when, with Airbnb?
Yeah, it's one of the questions that we get all the time, and even how we kind of made it through the pandemic and things like that is we got to know our seasons, right? Knowing our seasons let us know how we basically change our pricing. And we get really aggressive on pricing when things are low. That way we can get longer stays, and we try to target longer stays, stays that are like 3 months or less, or most times more. And we just try to get through that low to get back to the high where we can go ahead and charge our maximum price. So pricing has a lot to do with it. Marketing has a lot to do with it, and actually just screening and trying to get the right guest for the right length of stay is really key.
And what do you all predict to happen, say, over the next 6 to 12 months, just either in the real estate market in general or specifically to, short-term rental?
Yeah, I think the big shift in the short-term rental market is like we were saying. There's been these homey Airbnbs for a lot of time. Airbnb started with someone just renting out an air mattress in their apartment in San Francisco. Today, though, Airbnb has really shifted the game for investors because, again, like we're saying, we're seeing a shift from just a mom and pop run Airbnb unit to more of a standard and system set in place where there's a certain level of cleanliness, there's a certain level of experience that a guest might have, the amenities. What you would be seeing there are going to be unlike anything you'd see at a hotel, but the quality of the stay might even be better than a hotel because, again, it's going to be more personal, it's going to be more customized. And again, there's different asset classes, different classes of properties, and how you furnish and cater those properties is going to be probably dependent on that class of property as well.
Do either of you or both of you have, any daily habits that you're disciplined about that have helped you achieve success?
Definitely. I mean, personal development is just one of those things that, you all constantly have to kind of work on. So, constantly just reading something at least 30 minutes a day. But outside of that, I mean, just really just trying to stay positive and keeping a great mindset just to make sure that, hey, our people, our employees are definitely feeling great about doing their jobs, as well as we're doing everything that we can to make things easier for them. So, one of my daily habits that I add into that is just exploring new systems, automations, and things like that to just try to better or ease a certain pain point that we have within the business.
What's your best source for meeting new investors right now?
I would say that probably the best source right now has just been, kind of forcing ourselves to do it. We started a podcast in the multifamily space just to be able to talk to guys like you, Whitney. So, John and I are both ITs. We're both introverts. And if we could just close the door and stay inside all day, I think COVID-19 has probably been a best thing for us because it's just like we don't have to go out. We could stay inside. And if we choose to go out, that's by choice. But for us, best way for meeting investors has been through podcasting and kind of forcing ourselves to go out there.
What's the number one thing that's contributed to your success?
Definitely, it's been, I guess, word of mouth and performing well for just our clients in general, right? I mean, you get one investor that has something and you perform very well, they're going to definitely tell everybody else. And that has just kind of propelled just our business in general, just because, hey, this one person is going to go get us our next person because we're going to make sure we do a great job for him. And then it's just the confidence that our investors really have to go out and say, hey, okay, I'm going to do this building. It's a little bit out of reach, but, I can adjust my cap rate just a little bit because I know I'm going to have these guys come in and do this for these certain set of apartments. So that's been great.
Awesome. Well, guys, how do you like to give back?
I would honestly just say it's through content and educating other people. John and I are both really passionate about teaching others about the space. One of the things that I love about podcasts like yours, Whitney, is that you listen to every episode and you just get that little light bulb moment. And for me, in the space was that light bulb moment when I was listening to John and his story about how he scaled his business. So I would say that's been the most powerful thing.
And to add to that, we also, we're veteran friendly. We prefer, veteran employees first. We kind of have a standard for that. And we also give back to veteran charities.
Awesome. Well, guys, I'm grateful to have you on the show. Thank you for your time and just being willing to share your expertise around this niche that not all of us are very familiar with. But however, like we said, you need to know something. You need to at least know you guys. So, when we think there's an opportunity there that we could call you and say, hey, is this, what does this sound like? Am I just crazy, or is this a good opportunity or not? Because I don't want to get shiny object syndrome either, right? when I can, potentially hire somebody like yourself to help me manage something and even manage it much better than I could when it's outside of my niche. And so grateful just for you just shedding light on that to all the syndicators and operators, passive investors that are listening. So tell them how they can get in touch with you and learn more about you.
Yeah, I would say the best place that you can get in contact, you can go to shorttermsage.com. There you can learn about short-term rentals. We have a lot of tools, like we said, AirDNA and things like that we link to. If you're looking to just learn about the space, you can also just email us at Julian at shorttermsage.com. Send me an email. I'm free to happy and help you through your short-term rental journey.
Thank you for listening to the Real Estate Syndication Show, brought to you by LifeBridge Capital. LifeBridge Capital works with investors nationwide to invest in real estate, while also donating 50% of its profits to assist parents who are committing to adoption. LifeBridge Capital, making a difference, one investor and one child at a time. Connect online at www.lifebridgecapital.com for free material and videos to further your success.